your Houston Texans hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. For me, considering this team has underachieved the way that it has all year long, the guy who has been really the emblem of said underachieving, CJ Stroud, in a year where they add Stephon Diggs, though he's out for the season, add Tank Dell, though he's out for the season, have Nico Collins still, have Dalton Schultz, have Joe Mixon, had a five-headed monster allegedly, plus an offensive line going into this season that was supposed to be one of the strengths of the team. It is time for CJ Stroud to make something happen when it's not expected to happen. The best quarterbacks in the game do this. We saw him do it last year. We have yet to see him do it this season. And I think that whatever happens tomorrow is going to go a long way when it comes to determining just how much interest there is in this rather fickle town going into next season.
Yeah, I definitely I think the following week would matter a lot too, because then it's like it's still status quo if you were to win this game and then lose by 2 touchdowns to the Chiefs in the second round of the playoffs. But specifically around CJ, because I think people will start to waver on their confidence in him just after 2 years, which they shouldn't do. They Texans fans shouldn't bail on CJ. I feel like they're going to if he has a poor performance in this game.
Bail is a strong word. Bail is a strong word, but
Yeah,
skepticism,
severely be very skeptical.
yeah. Bailing is what you do when you have a Brock Osweiler. Bailing is what you do when you have someone that's never shown you anything. Bailing is what you did when Matt Schaub all of a sudden just stopped having it.
See, for me, like the comp that I would want to look at is what I think happened with Browns fans and Baker Mayfield. That he took them to the playoffs as a rookie. He had success. He was really talented. He was really good early on. And then he got hurt. And then this franchise that has no idea what it's talking about when coming to quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield, they all wanted him out of town. And how's it gone for him since? That's my concern, is that Texans fans are going to all of a sudden act like they think they can get better than CJ Stroud while winning a 10-win football team. That's just not the case. But he needs to perform this weekend because I don't care about the injuries. The best quarterbacks would figure it out. If you want to put yourself as the third best quarterback in the NFL, like CJ Stroud did this last offseason, put himself in front of Josh Allen and say he's a better quarterback than him, then prove it. Prove you are this quarterback you said you are this weekend. It doesn't matter that Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs are out. Get it done.
MacGyver it, baby. You got to find a way to do it like MacGyver did. For those who are unfamiliar with the show, it's a dated reference that I understand despite having watched maybe a handful of clips from the
Mhm.
show. Generally, with that one guy who kept on dying, who would go off a clip and yell, MacGyver, before blowing up and then
Yeah.
coming back a couple of episodes later. MacGyver was this man with amazing hair who was fantastic at being able to make the most out of the least. You know, he could turn a paperclip and a piece of gum into a bazooka somehow, some
Mhm.
way. Stroud should be able to do that. The best find ways to do that. Tom Brady did it for years. Peyton Manning did it occasionally, though he did have Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. But you could argue, hey, maybe he made those guys what they were. We haven't seen it with Stroud this season in a year where we all expected it to happen. And I mean, what's really frustrating about the way that the offense has been this season, which a lot of people blame on Bobby Slowick and blame on the offensive line and try their hardest to avoid blaming CJ Stroud, is that the defense can win them games. Like the defense at its best is championship level. They're a little inconsistent. Obviously, the game against the Ravens, good God, what a disaster. But when they're playing their best with that pass rush and with the way that they fly to the football, plus a secondary that I think is getting better and better with Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock, in addition to now all pro Derek Stingley. And the offense just keeps on footing the defense with the bill. And eventually, if the offense keeps on going 3-and-outs or just kicks field goals instead of scoring touchdowns, there's only so much a defense can do in today's league.
Yeah, the Baltimore game felt inevitable. Like when you look at the close losses besides Minnesota and Baltimore this year, they did a great job. The defense did against the Packers. They intercepted Jared Goff 5 times. They
They
did,
lost.
and they had a good game against the Chiefs. I mean, yeah, they
I
have
mean,
some.
they think about what they did with the Bills too.
Yeah, yeah, the
Where
Bills, yes.
Josh Allen had one of the worst games of his career.
Mhm.
It was a hell of a performance by the Texans defense in that game. They were going after Allen all game long, and yet it was still a game at the end because the offense just couldn't do what it's been struggling to do all year. And look, if you're a smart person, you're going to look at this entire sample size of a season and say, "Hey, it ain't happening. They're not winning." And I hate that that's where I'm at, but that's where I'm at. I'm hoping within the next 51 minutes before the end of the show that I can shake where I'm currently at and all of a sudden get myself a deep steel blue pill of sorts and have to tuck it in the waistband and go full battle red boner, you know?
Yeah, I mean, but look, they're one of 2 teams that are in the playoffs without a positive plus minus point
I
differential.
know it's
This
even, right?
Yes, they're even. The Rams are in at 10-7 with a -19. The Houston Texans 0. They scored 372 points this year. They gave up 372 points
Mm.
this year, which is incredible to hit perfectly 0. But they're one of the only 2 teams that have that. You look at teams like Baltimore and Buffalo are plus 157 on the season. Good defenses, some great defense at times, but their offense scored. The Texans offense just didn't score enough this year. Like they have to be better. I mean, even the Kansas City Chiefs had a plus, 59 at 50-2. Like that's startling for to have that many wins. Shows you how many close games they
But they're
played.
playing their best ball right
Yeah.
now. I mean, they are playing well. The last couple of games they've been playing well, and that's I think hell the Chargers have been playing well of late. And I would say from this perspective, especially Justin Herbert's probably had the 3 best games of his career the
Hmm.
last couple, or not career, but he's had the 3 best games of the Jim Harbaugh era over the last 3, and that's with an offensive line that's also like been shaking things up. Joe Alt, who has had a very good rookie season, their top 10 pick, he had to play left tackle last week. And okay, not the it's one of those games where what are the actual
Yeah.
stakes in a week 18 game where who are they playing? It
Uh
wasn't, it was the
Raiders?
Raiders, right. It's the Raiders. So I mean, like, what are the stakes in a game like that? But I mean, he played well. And it looks like Slater, their general left
Hmm.
tackle, is going to be back out there. So Herbert's made it work despite not everything around him being good to go. I think he's going to be without Joshua Palmer with a foot injury. It does look like it's trending that way. He does have Lad McConkey. What's CJ Stroud's excuse? Because Stroud has more, I think, still than Herbert has to work with. I'm not the biggest Quentin Johnson guy. I think Nico Collins is better than Lad McConkey.
Oh yeah.
And I guess a tight end, maybe you say it's a wash, but Joe Mixon is better than anything the Chargers have in their backfield.
Yeah, I mean,
So 5-headed monster, dog. Like it might not be a 5-headed monster anymore, but it's at least a 3-headed monster, and that's still a monster.
yeah, and you never know. Like there, you have to get contribution from the other group of receivers, whether it is Deontay Johnson or I don't actually know what the status of John Mechie is or Xavier Hutchinson. You have to get some production from those guys. And to be like the Texans are playing the worst football of anyone besides the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the playoffs. The Steelers have lost 4 straight
Oh,
games.
I know.
They've been a disaster.
Well, that's at least nice. You're not playing the worst football of anybody.
Yeah. But you're next of 14 teams that have made the playoffs. You are the next team. And that's why Rex Ryan said they're a bye week. Because even though you won your last game, like
Yeah.
you're not playing good football.
It's funny too because you talk about the Steelers. Everyone looks at Steelers Ravens just because of the history of Steelers Ravens. You're like, well, the Steelers have a chance, which is kind of stupid because right, that's not what you should be basing it off of. But at the same time, yeah, Lamar Jackson's what 3-4 against the Steelers all time or something like that, and he's had some of his worst performances against them. So at least they have that in their back pocket, even if Steelers fans are rather skeptical of where this team's going with Mike Tomlin, with Russell Wilson, and or Justin Fields. Definitely Wilson, not Fields. And here you are, and like you got Stroud's out there. Your defense is about as healthy as it's been. If you got to win a rock fight, you got to win a rock fight. But CJ Stroud should make this not a rock fight for you. And I think the reason that the Chargers are 3-point favorites is exactly that. He hasn't done that all year.
Yeah,
So it's time, baby.
there's no excuse. It's time. Like prove who you say you are. Win this football game.
Yep.